Holding a reputation as one of the worst Ferrari models ever built, the 348 of 1989 was intended to be the face of the company's more widespread and affordable sports car offerings, combining a sleek body with power and performance that would have maintained the Italian car maker's place atop the hierarchy of sports car production amid the rising tide of rivals including Honda and its NSX. However, what resulted was a car that has experienced a sadly mixed reception, with criticisms being aimed at its styling, twitchy performance, reliability issues, and the fact that it appeared to be less refined than the 328 it replaced, though ultimately, the 348 would set the groundwork for perhaps Ferrari's magnum opus of the 1990s with the F355, and served as an overlooked but vital transition from one decade to another. The development of the Ferrari 348 began taking shape in the mid to late 1980s, with Ferrari seeking a successor to the 308 and 328 series, two models that had cemented the marque's status throughout the late 1970s and 80s, with the 328, while still admired for its styling and performance, now starting to show its age amid a rapidly shifting automotive landscape, with increasing pressure from competitors who were beginning to offer more refined, technologically advanced alternatives. With Ferrari aware that it could no longer rest upon its reputation, it needed to deliver something more modern, more capable, and more forward-thinking, with Porsche continuing to evolve its 911 series with relentless precision, while Japanese manufacturers, most notably Honda, were preparing to challenge Ferrari with vehicles like the NSX, which promised a new level of usability and technical sophistication. Customers themselves were also changing, demanding more from their performance cars not only in terms of speed and drama, but also refinement, reliability, and comfort, with Ferrari being conscious that to meet these rising expectations, the new model would need to be more than just an update of the 328, and instead had to represent a shift in philosophy and capability. By the latter half of the decade, Ferrari had already begun leaning towards more aerodynamically efficient and technically ambitious designs, with the Testarossa, introduced earlier in the 1980s, having set a bold new standard for styling with its wide track, distinctive side strakes, and flattened proportions, with these visual signatures having caught global attention and left a lasting impression, thus playing a significant role in shaping the design brief for the upcoming 348. One of the defining technical changes was the adoption of a longitudinal engine layout coupled with a transverse gearbox, with these being a major departure from the earlier transverse layouts used in the 308 and 328, with Ferrari engineers making this change to optimize weight distribution and to lower the center of gravity, thus allowing for improved chassis balance, better cooling, and superior packaging within the mid-engine layout. The transverse gearbox in particular had direct links to Ferrari's Formula One heritage, drawing on the technology used in the championship-winning 312T F1 car, and applying this solution to a road-going V8 model would be a first for Ferrari, and signaled a clear intent to bring racing technology into the customer experience, with the new configuration being engineered not only to improve the car's dynamic performance, but also to streamline serviceability. The styling of the 328 was handled by Pininfarina, Ferrari's longtime design partner, with Leonardo Fioravanti, one of the most influential figures in Ferrari design history, leading the project, Fioravanti having penned many of Ferrari's most iconic shapes, including the Daytona, the 512BB, the 288 GTO, and the F40, with his experience shaping the final look of the 348. The design borrowed heavily from the Testarossas' visual language, with prominent side strakes, flat surfaces, and a slatted rear grille that visually tied the model to the broader Ferrari lineup. That these weren't just aesthetic flourishes, but instead calculated design choices aimed at preserving Ferrari's visual identity at a time when new competitors threatened to redefine what a sports car should look like. Beneath the surface, Ferrari also pushed for more advanced structural engineering, with the 348 featuring a steel monocoque chassis, marking the first time Ferrari used this approach in a V8 production car, with this structure offering greater rigidity than the tubular space frames of earlier models, enhancing both safety and handling response. The car was also built with a bolt-on rear subframe to simplify drivetrain access, with this being an unusual but highly pragmatic decision that would benefit both owners and service technicians, with this development underlining Ferrari's acknowledgement that their cars had to be more maintainable and usable in a real-world context without losing their performance edge. Furthermore, electronics were becoming increasingly integral to vehicle performance and reliability by the end of the 1980s, and the 348 reflected this shift, with the car being equipped with dual Bosch Motronic ECUs for engine management and a dual computer setup that allowed more precise control of fueling and ignition, while anti-lock braking was fitted as standard, as was a self-diagnosing climate control system. Enzo Ferrari himself remained a guiding presence during the car's development, and though he passed away in August 1988 before the 348 was unveiled, he had overseen much of the model's early direction, with it being the last V8 Ferrari developed under his leadership, and as such, it carried an emotional weight within the company, with his influence felt in the car's refusal to adopt electronic driving aids and its insistence on a traditional gated 5-speed manual gearbox, with Enzo believing that a Ferrari should challenge the driver and reward skill. The Ferrari 348, internally designated as Type F119, made its official public debut at the 1989 Frankfurt Motor Show, with initial reception to the 348 being largely positive and, in some cases, effusive, with enthusiasts and journalists alike being captivated by the car's bold styling, while publications such as Road and Track and Auto Week offered glowing write-ups, with the former naming the 348 Best in Show, a high honor given the international competition present at such a major automotive event. For many, the combination of sharp aesthetics, technical sophistication, and Ferrari's racing pedigree suggested that the company had not only successfully moved on from the 328, but was also prepared to meet the challenge of an increasingly competitive supercar market, with Gavin Green writing in Car magazine in 1990, remarking on the level of involvement the car demanded from its driver, celebrating the sensory richness and intensity of the experience. However, as the initial excitement settled and more extensive testing was conducted by the motoring press, a more complex picture of the 348 began to emerge, as while the car's raw analog driving experience was applauded, particularly its remarkably direct and communicative steering, there were growing concerns about the way it behaved at the limit, with critics pointing to a tendency for unpredictable oversteer and a chassis that required serious concentration and precise inputs from the driver, especially during spirited driving. As such, the 348 could be unforgiving in less than ideal conditions, and this demanding nature led some to question whether it was truly suitable as a road-going sports car for less experienced enthusiasts, while during September 1991, the 348's underperformance was demonstrated by Patrick Bedard when he put one head-to-head with a GMC Cyclone, a high-performance version of the GMC Sonoma pickup truck, during which the Ferrari was thrashed, completing the quarter-mile 0.4 seconds slower than the American pickup. Thus, with Ferrari being very sensitive to the feedback from both journalists and customers, they took these concerns seriously and made a series of technical updates and refinements throughout the car's production run, and from 1990 onwards, the car was introduced with an updated version of the Bosch Motronic engine management system, moving from version 2.5 to the more advanced 2.7. This upgrade providing improved fuel and ignition control, enhancing engine performance and responsiveness, while the new system also enabled better diagnostic capabilities and refined emissions management, contributing to a smoother overall driving experience. Between 1991 and 1992, the Italian coach builder Zagato unveiled a bespoke reinterpretation of the Ferrari 348 TB called the 348 Elaborazione, with this version featuring a heavily modified body design that departed significantly from the standard car's aesthetics, with key changes including a new front bumper without the traditional Ferrari grille, enlarged side air intakes, and a transparent engine cover designed to showcase the V8 power plant beneath. At the rear, triple round tail lights replaced the standard rectangular units, and a motorized rear spoiler was added for a more dramatic visual and aerodynamic effect, while the roof was reshaped into a signature Zagato double-bubble form, providing both headroom and stylistic distinction, and the cabin was reupholstered in suede, with a unique dashboard and interior layout that included a 3-inch screen for rearward visibility. Despite plans to produce 22 examples, only 10 were ever completed, making the 348 Elaborazione one of the rarest and most unconventional 348-based models. In 1992, Ferrari introduced the 348 Serie Speciale as a limited edition variant aimed exclusively at the North American market, with production being strictly capped at 100 units split between the TB and TS body styles, with this version making a notable performance enhancement over the standard models, with engine output increased to 311 horsepower, aided by a free-flowing exhaust system, a revised engine tune, and a shorter final drive ratio for sharper acceleration. The chassis was modified with a 50mm wider rear track, and the car was equipped with Pirelli P0 tires for improved grip, while visually, the Serie Speciale featured several distinctive updates, such as an F40-style front spoiler for better aerodynamics, a redesigned front grille with a chrome prancing horse emblem, and body-colored bumpers and rocker panels, with the rear fascia including a revised light cluster and a new grille, also with chrome badging. Inside the cabin, Ferrari fitted F40-style sports seats in Connolly leather, though standard seats remained optional, and added leather-trimmed door panels, with each example carrying an individually numbered plaque on the passenger side post, highlighting its exclusivity within the 348 range. By 1993, Ferrari responded to both customer feedback and evolving performance standards by thoroughly updating the 348 model range, with the revisions introduced that year marking a clear turning point in the car's development, with 3 new variants being launched: the 348 GTB, a fixed-roof Berlinetta, the 348 GTS, a targa roof version, and the 348 Spider, a full convertible. All three featured a new version of the 3.4-litre V8 engine, designated F119H, now producing 315 horsepower, with this being achieved through a raised compression ratio of 10.8 to 1, revised camshaft profiles, higher fuel pressure, taller intake plenums, and other refinements aimed at increasing both power and efficiency. In addition to the engine upgrades, Ferrari revised the suspension geometry to enhance ride quality and cornering stability, with the rear track being widened, further improving handling and high-speed composure, while the fuel tank was reshaped and reduced in size, a change that not only helped reduce weight, but also allowed for a stiffer chassis structure, and exterior styling was subtly modernized, with black-painted lower cladding now finished in body color, and the engine cover was also painted to match. The slatted rear grille was also removed, revealing the rectangular tail lights, while a chrome Cavallino badge now adorned the rear panel, with these cosmetic and mechanical upgrades significantly refining the car's driving experience and addressing many of the car's earlier shortcomings. Among the new models, the 348 Spider held particular importance, with this being Ferrari's first full production convertible since the Daytona Spider of the early 1970s, the Spider bringing open-top driving back to Ferrari's mid-engine V8 lineup, and featured a manually folding soft top and a uniquely styled engine cover, while the rear track was increased by over 50mm over the earlier TB model, contributing to better handling and a more aggressive stance. Mechanically, the Spider shared the same F119H engine and gearbox revisions as the GTB and GTS, ensuring it delivered similar performance, with Ferrari producing just over 1,000 Spiders between 1993 and the end of the model's production run in 1995. Also introduced in 1993 was the 348 GT Competizione, a limited-run, competition-orientated homologation model, with only 50 units being produced, of which just 8 were right-hand drive, with these being developed to meet homologation requirements for GT racing, with the GT Competizione focusing heavily on weight reduction and track performance, incorporating lightweight body panels made from carbon Kevlar composites, as used extensively in the front and rear bumpers, doors, and interior trim pieces. Meanwhile, the rear window was replaced with a lighter polycarbonate version, and the cabin was stripped of luxuries such as sound insulation and air conditioning, with cloth racing sheets with Kevlar shells, a carbon fiber steering wheel, and exposed carbon details throughout the cabin, reinforcing the car's competition intent. Mechanically, the GT Competizione retained the F119 engine with 315 horsepower, but the car's dry weight was reduced to just 1,180 kilograms, while brakes were derived from the F40 Evoluzione, and the suspension system was tuned for track use, with the gearbox receiving a revised final drive ratio of 25-27, optimizing acceleration, and the car also featured 18-inch speedline wheels, wider tires, and a more aggressive stance, with all of these elements combining to make the GT Competizione the most track-focused version of the 348, and one of the most sought-after by collectors. During the same period, Ferrari launched the 348 Challenge, a factory-sanctioned one-make racing series designed to bring Ferrari owners into motorsport, with this series debuting in 1993 and was initially supported in both Europe and North America, with these cars being standard TB or TS models, converted for competition using dealer-installed factory kits including roll cages, racing bucket seats, harnesses, fire extinguishers, upgraded brakes, different wheels, slick racing tires, and a modified exhaust system. Furthermore, the battery was repositioned for better weight balance, and a more compact unit was fitted, while in 1994, competition rules mandated that all Challenge cars be updated with H-spec cylinder heads and fuel injection systems to match the improved performance of the later road-going models, with the 348 Challenge series running until 1995, after which it was succeeded by the F355 Challenge program. On the broader racing stage, the 348 had limited but notable involvement, with 1991 seeing Ferrari build a prototype for Francorchamps known as the 348 TBF, with this lightweight development car being used to explore the model's potential for racing and featured composite doors, polycarbonate windows, and various aerodynamic tweaks, and although it did not race in a major series, it served as a testbed for future competition variants. From 1993 onwards, Ferrari race specialist Michelotto prepared 11 348 CSAI GT cars for privateer competition in events such as the 24 Hours of Le Mans and the Daytona 24 Hours, with 2 additional 348 GTC LM cars being developed in 1994, specifically for GT2 class racing, with one of these entered by Team Repsol, achieving 4th in GT2 and 11th overall at Le Mans in 1994, while other GTC LMs recorded stronger finishes at Via Junga and Spa. Eventually, the Ferrari 348 ceased production in 1995, with 8,844 units constructed, the model being replaced by the highly advanced F355, which, unlike the 348, received critical and universal acclaim for being the true destination of the company's move from the analog days of the 328 to a digital future well suited to the 1990s sports car scene, being adored for its performance, style, and exceptional road manners that made the 348 look like a mundanity by comparison. As such, the 348 soon fell into obscurity and was rapidly forgotten as the F355 and later 360 reinvented Ferrari's image, its initial mixed reception putting the car on many lists as the worst Ferrari ever built, alongside the likes of the Mondial, with harsh memories of its stiff controls and unpredictable handling on early examples lingering even to this day. However, in reality, the Ferrari 348 was a truly worthy stopgap between the 1970s thinking of the 328 and the barnstorming firebrand nature of the F355 and its desire to match the highly competitive market of the 1990s, with the car, once rectified through thoughtful refinements that improved its balance, comfort, and overall performance, making it truly a classic even despite the continued stigma of those early models. Therefore, as the last V8 Ferrari developed during Enzo Ferrari's lifetime, the 348 has since earned a renewed respect among enthusiasts, with its analog purity, distinctive styling, and varied range of limited editions, now marking it out as a significant chapter in Ferrari's history, appreciated not just for what it was, but for what it led to.